Mothers tend to rise in crisis. Please turn with me to 2 Kings chapter 4, verses 1 through 7. You may know this story as the widow's oil. The wife of a man from the company of prophets cried out to Elisha, "Your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that he revered the Lord. But now his creditor is coming to take my 2 boys as his slaves." Elisha replied to her, "How can I help you? Tell me, what do you have in your house?" "Your servant has nothing there at all," she said, "except a small jar of olive oil." Elisha said, "Go around and ask all your neighbors for empty jars. Don't ask for a few. Then go inside and shut the door behind you and your sons. Pour oil into the jars, and as each is filled, put it to one side." She left him and shut the door behind her and her sons. They brought her the jars, and she kept pouring. When all the jars were full, she said to her son, "Bring me another one." But he replied, "There's not a jar left." Then the oil stopped flowing. She went and told the man of God, and he said, "Go, sell the oil and pay your debts. You and your sons can live on what is left." What I like about this Bible mom is she represents a cross section of many of us today. She is a wife. She is a mom. Because of her husband's death, she's now a widow, and also because of his death represents single moms. Without doubt, the woman in this story is a victim of dire circumstances, none of which the Bible leads us to believe is her fault. She cried, and we would be right in joining her in mourning over her loss and her crisis. She cried. We know she cried. The Bible tells us she cried. She had a huge crisis, and it made her cry. Which one of us wouldn't cry? In a moment, we will look at how this woman actually dealt with the crisis. But right now, all of us here are dealing with this COVID-19. How are you handling it? Ladies, let me ask, if your husband died and left you with an overwhelming debt, causing you to have serious financial problems, do you call up your girlfriends, whine and husband bash? Do you apply for a new credit card? Do you go back to school and get one of those easy to get student loans? Do you pick up a sugar daddy to help out? I'm sure we all know at least one person who's done at least one of those things. Mothers and mothers-to-be, this story in 2 Kings chapter 4, verses 1 through 7 is as relevant as today's news. In fact, let me remind you that the story begins with a mother's distress cry. The wife of a man from the company of prophets cried out to Elisha, "Your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that he revered the Lord, but now his creditor is coming to take my 2 boys as his slaves." Guys, this is the year 2020, and slavery still exists. It exists in many parts of the world, and even within the boundaries of these United States of America. Between the sex trafficking trade and the abuse of some illegal immigrants and other countless stories that surface, please understand that while it may be against the law, slavery still exists. And it's not difficult to find fresh stories of mothers crying because a child has not come home, and later to find that that child may have been rescued from a sex slave trade and even branded like cattle. Let me share my screen with you here. And here on my screen, you'll see it's abcactionnews.com. This story is dated, here we go, January 17, 2020. What's the title? Women and Children Branded Sold for Sex in Tampa Bay Area. I'll just read the headline. Human trafficking victims are being branded and sold for sex in the Tampa Bay area, okay? So this is a real situation happening today. So let's go ahead and grieve with this mom in this Bible story. She's lost her husband, and if that grief wasn't enough, she's about to lose her 2 sons. Who in here has ever had a moment of worry that you might lose your child? Whether it was drugs, disease, or disaster. Some of us in this very experience know the agony of your child being in a situation that you feel helpless to fix. In my line of work, I meet many single moms who have overwhelming debt, and they use credit cards to make up for the shortfall in their income. We all have urgent needs. And when it comes to our kids, moms, you know, it's hard to say no. It's even harder to deny them some of the basics. So if there's no cash, credit seems like a helpful friend in times of need. But the excessive use of debt to finance life is par for the course. And let me remind you, the creditors are coming. We can only last so long without paying the bills before eviction or foreclosure and harassment comes our way. So this mom tells Elisha, but now his creditors are coming to take her 2 boys away as slaves. So let's take a look at this mother's mission, her miracle, and her money management. So let's read this again. It says, but now his creditors are coming. Whose creditors? His creditors, not hers, her husband's. Now you can only have a creditor if you borrow. Romans 13:8 says, owe no man any debt but love. Well, in this Bible story, the family owed, and they owed a lot. Now, guys, creditors do what's called asset assessment before they come knocking on your door. Before they arrive, they already know what they're coming after. Sometimes, you know, if you're in real debt, you can find that during the night they've come and repossessed your car. Maybe they hand you an eviction notice, or they've started the process for foreclosure. Some can find that their bank accounts are frozen and funds are removed. Some may even find that your future wages are legally garnished. This family had no obvious assets. So what were the creditors coming for? Her 2 sons. How much debt her husband must have owed? Remember, this is a man of God now, but how much debt must he have owed that the creditors were coming not for 1 son, but for both? So let's take a look at her mission. This woman, this mom, despite the hopelessness before her, she did not sit in sorrow and just sit there and just, you know, throw her hands up in the air and wait for the inevitable. She did not give up. In this time of trouble, this widow, this single mom of 2 boys, this destitute woman with no income, no saving, no obvious asset, this woman stayed strong in the time of trouble, and she went on a mission to solve her problem. So let's look at her resolve. Let's look at this mission, this display of inner strength. It says the wife of a man from the company of prophets cried out to Elisha. See, unlike her husband, this woman did not use debt as her strategy to solve her problem. She did not kick the can down the road. She goes to the best rescue source that she knows to fix this problem. She went to the brethren, not just any Christian brother either. She went to Elisha, a prophet of God. Let me ask you, who is the first person that you pick up and call and share your challenges with? Who's in your corner? Let's take a look at her miracle. What I love most about what God does here for this mom is the simplicity of the solution. You see, Elisha asks her, tell me, what do you have in your house? What's immediately at hand? I can never stop being amazed at how God uses exactly what he has already provided. We know the story of where Jesus used 5 loaves and 2 fish. So tell me again, ladies, what do you have in your house? What talent, time, treasure, skill set, network, land, what has God given you that you can utilize? See, her response to Elisha at the time was, your servant has nothing at all here, nothing except a small jar of olive oil. Your servant has nothing there at all except a small jar of olive oil. Except. You know, if we were to bring all these negative beliefs before the Lord, he might just show you your accept. And he might even show you how you can use the accept as the foundation of your miracle. The instructions that Elisha gave her was to shut the door upon herself and her sons as she poured the vessels, okay? This miracle was just for this woman and her family, a private miracle from God. You know, very few people will believe a miracle, even if they see it with their own 2 eyes. So indeed, they may as well not even bother to be a part of the observation of your miracle. Because sometimes when you try explaining how God has worked in your life, just watch and see if the critics don't come out to try and discredit you. Some things are just impossible to explain with logic and science. When God works, logic and science are made to seem foolish to them. And to those who believe, we don't need logic and science. So there remains outside a blessing that some can never appreciate. It's just not theirs to enjoy. Elisha said, go outside, borrow vessels of all your neighbors, empty vessels and not too few. It's interesting to me that these instructions, the number of vessels, was the only limiting factor to God's blessing here, because as many vessels as she got, God filled. When all were filled and sold, it was more than enough to pay all her bills and live on the rest. So let's take a look at her money management, because, ladies and gentlemen, this is indeed a money management situation. She went and told the man of God, and he said, go and sell the oil and pay your debts. You and your sons can live on what is left. Please don't miss this. Don't miss this. This woman, think about the Jewish culture back in those days, okay? This woman has probably never worked a day in her life. That was the culture of the time, okay? And now Elisha is telling her to go and sell. Selling is a good thing, ladies. Don't be afraid of it. Some of you are locked in those sweet golden handcuffs called a job. And some of you think that that is the only way to earn an income. Some of you will even go as far as the east is from the west before you consider trying to sell anything. But Elisha told this woman to go and sell. She was now going to learn business by immersion. And sometimes that's the only way to do something. So how many of you have a business for yourself? And even those of you in a job, you're really still in sales, let me tell you. You're selling yourself to the highest bidder in terms of you're only taking the job that offers you the highest pay package or the highest benefits package. You're selling yourself through your resume, and hopefully you're not, painting a verbal lie as you present yourself as the best candidate for the job, but we're always selling. Selling happens 24/7 around us. And guys, selling is simply an exchange of something of value. Time for money, goods and services for money. You go to school, you exchange your money for an education. In this case, the creditors were asking her to exchange her 2 sons for her husband's debt. So let me show you another instance where selling is considered a very good thing. Here in the Bible, again, it's in Proverbs 11:26. People curse those who hoard their grain, but they bless the one who sells in time of need. So we're just in a series where, people were hoarding toilet paper and some people just couldn't get it. And you would have just been so grateful if somebody would just sell you a roll or two. That's an example of how selling is truly meeting a need. It's simply exchanging one thing for another. That's all it is. So when you sell, there is a blessing exchange. Somebody receives what they need and you get a monetary compensation. So Elisha tells this woman to go and sell, but he also tells her to pay her debts. Guys, having money, making money, managing money, and keeping money are three completely different skill sets. I have an excerpt from Kanye West. He tweeted in 2015, he tweeted that he was 53 million in personal debt. 53 million. Now, this man makes a lot of money, but he spends a whole lot more of it too. This is important, guys, because I see a lot of people when they get a pay increase, instead of keeping that money as something to save or to pay down the debt, that extra $50 a month in income becomes an extra $50 payment, an extra bill somewhere. So Elisha tells this woman to go and sell the oil and pay your debts. You and your sons can live on what is left. Live on the rest. Live on the rest. This is a money management task that she was going to have to learn. Her husband clearly hadn't learned it. She's going to have to learn it. She was going to need to budget this money. And then when she budgeted the money, she was going to pay the debts and live on the rest. I really need to say this, live on what is left. What do you think this means, guys? Living is more than surviving. Living is enjoying some of the creature comforts of life along the way. Elisha is now telling this widow, you and your sons can live on what is left. She was going to have to manage what was left to ensure that she and her sons could live on it. Many of us come into a windfall, and as you turn around, that money's gone. I've heard of people getting $7,000 back in tax return, and as you look, money's gone. So she was going to have to manage what was left. For Elisha to declare you and your sons can live on what is left is also a testament to the fact that God provided more than enough. After paying off the debt in God's economy, there is still enough left. This is the way God manages money, guys. Satan cannot be your financial advisor because he's luring us in with credit and debt and setting a trap to enslave us and our children. Right now, the nation of America owes so much that the debt is enslaving us and our children and our children's children. Let this mother in 2 Kings 4, verses 1 through 7 be a biblical example to mothers today. Bring your troubles to Jesus and he will show you a way out. There is no crisis that God is unable to bring you out of. And very often we will truly need to participate in that miracle to see God's hand multiply our small jar of oil. Thank you.